Doug Bruner, and thank you again. We're at the Ag Center, and we're doing the OG podcast. I'm lucky to be sitting here with three gentlemen who I've kind of handpicked for a couple different reasons. One is my father-in-law, Russell Harris, Robert Huckabee, and John Urigot. And yesterday, besides Russell, because I'm around him so much, I got to really enjoy talking to Robert and John. The message I want to get out in this talk definitely is how they got where they did, and because right now it's just, especially in agriculture, I'm kind of not the young guy that I was once 10 years ago, but there's so many young guys who want to try to make it in this industry, and there's a lot of questions. And so one of the main things that I talked to Russell and John and Robert all about is being honest about where do they see the future going. I think their stories, which I'm going to talk about with them, are incredible, how they got where they are, but they're also going to talk about where they see the future. And some of it could be controversial. Some young guys might not like it because it's probably going to be a little harder. So, first of all, I want to thank you guys. Thank you, John. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Russell. Taking time, all busy guys. Urigot, he thought he was going to be on a dozer today, but I called him yesterday, and he said, oh, shit, I'll be here. So, anyways, I'm going to start with Robert. Robert Huckabee, he is the CEO of Westside Equipment. He has an incredible story. He was a college grad at Bakersfield, right?
That's correct.
He went to work for Bolthouse.
Yep.
And then went to Grimway.
That's correct.
Where you were a vice president of the farming operation, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And from Grimway, I went on to the Wonderful Company.
Yeah.
And was vice president there as well.
So I'm sure anybody who is listening to this does know who the Wonderful Company is, right? They're not only, they control pretty much majority of the pistachios. So that's tell us about that job. I mean, and how did you get that?
Yeah, Grimway's a great company. Stuart Resnick, he's a great entrepreneur and a great leader. I really enjoyed my time there. When I was with Grimway Farms for about 17 years, and had a really good run with that company. But Wonderful was looking for a replacement for a couple of gentlemen who were retiring, and so they approached me. And the timing overall was just right. I was ready for a change. I was ready for a move, and so timing-wise, everything just worked out. And I got to go there and spend a few years there, and got to learn from Stuart, and just a great experience overall. Great company to be with.
How is it working? I mean, first of all, that's kind of a dumb question because you worked with all huge operations. So how is it dealing with somebody like Mr. Resnick? What does it take to be a person in your position? How do you deal with those type of personalities and things like that? Because a lot of people are going out of college, going to take jobs with larger companies and things like that. And I think that's a big thing, is how do you deal with these type of personalities?
Yeah, I would say that the number one thing that I would always just strive for is listening to what the ownership wants. And and guys like Stuart and Bob Grimm, coming from out of the Grimway era, is just, these guys know what they want in the business, and and your job is really just to listen to what they're striving for and deliver. And most of these guys, they give you the ability to operate as you see fit. And as long as you're meeting their strategic goals at the end of the year, that's the best way to achieve for these guys. That and then from there they'll reward you and they'll promote you and they'll give you forward. So it's just delivering. At the end of the day, it's delivering the goals that they're trying to reach with the company.
Got it. I think that's a great answer. I think another thing is after you depart from Wonderful, you had a stint with another company, and then you had a big opportunity, which is Westside Equipment, which I've always known Westside Equipment for the tomato deal, right? And because I'm a tomato grower, so of course we kind of need you guys, which is a great need because we need you, right?
Yeah,
and there's not that much competition out there. Besides, I think Chris Roofer made his own machines, but
that's true.
That doesn't surprise
Yeah.
anybody. But is that you came onto this, but not only you expanded into the pistachio industry during when you came on, but talk to us about that role and not only the exciting thing, what just happened with you guys now.
Yeah, so when I was at Wonderful, I was approached by a company, private equity, and it seemed like a great opportunity. They were offering me an ownership stake in the company, and it seemed like a great opportunity for me to kind of expand what I've done, my entire life. And so I did. I tried to roll with them. It did not go well. Didn't and the ownership and I didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but I had a second opportunity, and that's with the one you're talking about, Westside Equipment. Westside Equipment, private equity owned for the last 4 years, and just owned by a great group of people. Hanover Partners and Grey Rock Capital, they did a great job. Everything that they said that we could do, all the backing that they said they would give us, they did, 100%. They never waffled on that. But it was a great opportunity. They laid out what their goals wanted to be. They wanted to grow the company by X percent over a 4-year period, and they were willing to stick it out for 5 to 7 years. Now we achieved that goal in 4 years, and so at the end of 4 years, we decided to put the company up for sale, and we sold it. And we were lucky enough to have Oxbow come in and buy the company. And Oxbow's just been an incredible company to jump on with, and they have the same vision that we do. Just excellent equipment, but putting customers first and putting employees second, but also second over a lot of other things in the company. And so they know how to treat the employees well. And so it's been a great matchup for us. And so Oxbow's been somebody that I've been talking with for the last 2 years about purchasing Westside Equipment. So we finally got to put it together, and what a great match it's been so far.
I want to, number one, tell you congratulations.
Thank
Number
you.
two is it's interesting to hear because a lot of times when you hear about them purchases, you don't hear that fairy tale story. I feel like majority of the time I do not. I mean, I've had a few companies. I know my father-in-law, of course, gets courted all the time, and it just never seems to go down that road. One last question on that. How did you really find that they were the right partner and, the private equity that you went with? And how did you was it as a team to keep them online with that? Or are they just the best out there,
Yeah, well, I would say for anybody, do your research. The first time I jumped in with private equity, I did not do my homework. I saw some big visions of dollar signs and things like that, and I jumped in. When I did it the second time, I did a lot of research. I interviewed 5 companies that were currently owned by Hanover and Grey Rock and talked to their CEOs. And then when it came time to sell the company, it's kind of the same thing. Spent a lot of time with the ownership of Oxbow, as well as several other companies. At the end of the day, we ended up speaking with 8 different companies on a very high level of, would they be interested in buying the company and what their goals were. But it really came down to doing your homework. And I would encourage anybody that's going to jump in with a private equity company to do your research, because there's some bad apples out there, but there's also some great companies, and there's also great opportunity out there. And for me, it turned out spectacular. And so, I appreciate those guys being honest with me, from day one.
That's awesome, Robert. So now I'm going to move on to that. That is a great success story of somebody who came out of college, worked his way up the chain, and got himself equity in a company by doing the right things. Things you just don't get handed something like that. So hats off to you. I think that's one way. And then you got John Urigot over here, who he decided he wanted to chop firewood for a living and didn't understand there was that much money in it. His story is pretty neat. He started as a senior in college, I guess chopping. Well, JFS means John's Firewood Service, correct?
John's Firewood Sales. That's what it was originally in 2002. I had a DBA, John's Firewood Sales.
And then, so John goes to an orchard, approaches 10 acres, right, John?
So I grew up on a small family farm, and my dad bought the neighbors 20 acres of almonds right next door. And I was looking in the classified section in the Fresno Bee back when people would look at the classifieds, and Fresno Bee was good. And I saw there was a firewood section, and I'm like, boy, people are selling firewood here, and so I told my dad, I'm like, Dad, look, and it was maybe $150 a cord, $125 a cord. I was going to college at the time. I asked my dad, I said, Dad, can I cut this wood up? Can I cut it and let me cut it up and I'll sell it? And he says, you don't want to cut all that up. I said, yeah, let me cut it up. So he says, okay, go ahead. So myself and I hired 2 guys, and I was going to Fresno State. So before class and after class, I'd go run the chainsaw, and I had a couple guys cutting. I think I got like 80 cords out of it, and I cut it up and I sold it all. I didn't even know wood's supposed to be seasoned when you sell it at the time, so I was selling green wood, which you aren't supposed to do. So I sold it all, and maybe I made like $12,000 in 2002, and I'm like, wow, that was pretty easy. So the next year, there was another neighbor that had 10 acres or 15 acres, and I cut that up and sold it all again. I'm like, wow, this is great. You know, making all this money. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I got to buy a dump truck, because I had a flatbed 1971 International truck. I put bins on it, and I'd fill it up with firewood. I'd drive it to class, Fresno State, and then
You take your girlfriend around in it too?
no, girls wouldn't look at me in this truck. So then I would take this, drive this truck to class. And I had at 7:30 in the morning class at Fresno State till like 10, and I'd take off and I'd sell this wood up in the mountains. And I'd come back with, $600 cash, and like, this is great. I'm making all kinds of money. And so next year I got a little more. I bought a loader. And then I bought a Caterpillar, and I was going out and taking orchards out for guys for the firewood. And then people would start calling and say, hey, can you take this orchard out? And I'd take it out. And then the firewood business kind of, it progressed. And then I got an account,
Well,
go ahead.
this reminds me of a story that I did, but not even close, especially because John's dealing with 90 different stores in California, and he kind of told a little gray area fib, but I want him to tell it, because for a young entrepreneur, the things you got to do sometimes outside the box, and the mind that I think John had was like, he'll tell this story, but I'm jumping the gun, is he thought, here's an opportunity. I'm not going to let it pass. And if I do, somebody else is going to take it. So he quickly thought, and he made an opportunity. And it's a pretty cool deal what he did here. And I never knew this story till yesterday. So
Yeah, I was just selling wood by the cord up in the mountain areas for like 4 years. And I'm like, then I'd go to Save Mart and Orchard Supply and the Albertsons, and I'd see packaged firewood. And I'm like, wow, $14 for a box of wood. And I says, I want to do that. So I started sending letters out to all these stores, Orchard Supply and Save Mart and Albertsons, and no one would call. And I'd get on the phone and start calling these buyers and pretty much get hung up on every time. And I got a call one day. It was a rainy day, I remember, and it was a buyer from Orchard Supply Hardware. And they said, is this John's firewood sales? I said, yeah. They said, we're running low on firewood, and our current supplier, which is California Hotwood, they're a big company. They are short shipping us. Can you take care of us? I says, yeah, for sure. And they said, well, we'd like to come and take a tour of your facility. And my facility was 5 acres of dirt at my family's ranch, and I says, they says, well, how many square feet do you have undercover? I said, 80,000 square feet. They says, 80,000. I said, yeah, 80,000. And he says, okay, well, we want to come in 2 weeks and take a tour. I said, okay. So I'm like, wow, what do I do now? So my neighbor had an old pallet yard, and he had a big storage area, and he was an older guy. I said, hey, and it was closed down. I said, hey, can I just use your place for a couple days, few days here? He said, yeah. So I started taking truckload after truckload of firewood and dumping it under the covers, and I ordered a bunch of boxes, and I got labels made, and I get a bunch of guys. There's like 30 guys, and they're packaging wooden boxes, which I never had even packaged wooden boxes. And I got forklifts running all over the place, and they come, and like I created this like facade that I'm actually in the packaged firewood business. And they were impressed. Like, so they gave me the business, and then I got that account, and that was kind of the breaking point in what kind of pushed me along. I got it was about 90 to 100 stores, all of California. And that was kind of, I kind of took off from there with the firewood. We continued doing that until Orchard Supply kind of closed doors. But at that point, when they closed doors, I was doing a bunch of other things, and it didn't really hurt my feelings too much. But the firewood business took me into other areas of business.
So one thing me and John talked about yesterday is he's had a couple good hits, right? And I think every young entrepreneur needs that. He went from the firewood, and then it went from guys with 40 acres to 100 acres saying, hey, will you start grinding my orchards or grinding my vineyards? So he went out and invested money in equipment and took on that. And now he's one of the largest orchard removal vineyard people in the state of California. And then the next big thing John hit was ripping. We were talking about going in and making investments. And I think, we were talking yesterday, sometimes you need luck to fall your way, but as well as John was saying yesterday, he went out and took high interest loans and things like that where it just takes some guts sometimes. And I think everybody says they want to be successful, but it's how hard do you want to do that? And you can talk about kind of like you were saying, taking that hit, going and getting that loan, kind of scared, but hey, you did it, right?
I asked Doug, should I be truthful or do you want me to sugarcoat things? But things were a lot easier back then. I got started with a bunch of old junky equipment. We'd break down, and farmers were okay, they would deal with it, but now it's a little bit different. I was just looking at this equipment out here, and it's like, wow, a 5125 tractor is $115,000. Like how does a farmer, if you got 200 acres, well, right now you're losing money per acre, but how does a farmer even afford one new tractor? It's crazy thing. We used to come to this farm show when I was a kid, and you could see a piece of equipment and be like, well, I could use that for my farm. And you were making a little bit of money, and you can afford, and things were a lot cheaper. But things have completely changed in farming. Now in farming, you have to learn to, I hate saying this, but you got to know where the different programs are. You got to play the game. You got to, if the government's giving money, you better take it. Before it was like farmers were against welfare for farm. They didn't want anything to do with that, but you have to now. If you want to survive, if there's programs, you have to always be looking for stuff.
Perfect. Well, thank you, John. A story on a guy who took firewood and is now one of the largest service businesses. So now I have my father-in-law to my right. My father-in-law has a really interesting story. He was born into farming, right? With your father,
yes,
Marion.
Cotton.
And he was farming around here. And I think his story is really amazing because, and now me as a father, is the investment his dad made into teaching him along the way. And I think that's kind of something you don't see in farming now. I rarely see like little kids out with their dads now. Robert, I kind of going back to Robert moved up the chain in corporate businesses and made a big deal. John started with a dump truck that he drove his girlfriend to school in, and now has some of the nicest equipment on the road, and the most efficient. And Russell started with land up here that was not worth nothing to him and his father's dream, moving up, planting almonds, and creating an empire in land. But which we'll get to later is how do you do that now? But also he created a vertical integrated company at the age of 30.
Shit, a long time ago.
What was the age when
96, 33.
When you took over from your dad when he had the stroke?
33.
33. And at that time, you were just starting out your processor?
No.
Or the wholer?
No,
right?
at 33, we were wanting to plant like 100,000 acres of trees, and we sold some land in Pixley. It was 1031 up north because we want to get away from bad water and get to good water. And my friend Marshall Baker, who was growing trees for himself, I kind of mentored me a little bit. I liked what he was doing because back in those days, you wanted to plant almond trees that cost $4 a tree. You could grow them for $1. So if I'm going to plant 100,000 trees, it's easy math saying, hey, when you're 33 years old, hey, I can buy me a new Cadillac if I get that sold. So my father allowed me the gift to go buy the seeds. I farmed across from Bright's Nursery. And first time we bought trees from them, I didn't think they were as quality we liked, but not that I'm putting them down, they're much better then, but people farmed a lot different back in those days. So my dad allowed me the opportunity, and I figured back in those days, I mean, if you make 300% on growing something, that's pretty good. And we're growing cotton, making $300-400 an acre at the best. I said, man, I gotta grow 10 acres of almonds. I'll make more money than all these guys. And so back in those days, you had like 5 nurseries, and they were just nurseries. So they were taking their $4 and giving it to themselves and spending all the money with employees. I figured I really didn't need that money, but if I could grow them for $1 and sell them for $2 and sign you up, and then I could build my processor, as long as I pay you enough, you would maybe bring me your almonds. And as long as I took fair, you could buy out anytime you wanted, but you owe me the $2 and no interest.
And that's what you call the tree program,
The tree
right?
program. That started, but I also got lucky when the 90s took off. Almonds took off. I mean, my dad started planting almonds in 1963, the year I was born, but when I got out of college in 84, they were 65 cents a pound, or 85 were terrible. And we made, $600-700 an acre of almonds. That was great, but we only averaged 1,300 pounds. And so the varieties have changed over time. The nursery gave me a big influence to bring growers to us because I think 60% of our production is the guys that owes me money. And we've done a good enough job to have a good enough team to take care of the people, because when you get big, you have to hire. I believe like playing college baseball and sports, you coaches and you players play. And if they don't play, you got to discipline them, or you cut them, you do something. But we're able enough to get in that business that in the 90s, give enough trees away. I'm lucky enough to be blessed. The almond business did take off. We've had 20 years of great success. And it's funny when you're talking about wood. I used to walk out. I used to cut wood. Go, $14 a box. Shit, I'm gonna bring that back to it because I didn't even know what a cord was till I stacked it. But anyway, so I've been blessed in that way, and and talking about seeing entrepreneurs and stuff. I think one business opens the door for a lot of businesses. Like everybody here, you started something, you learned something different. The doors are wide open most of the time. But anyways, that's my little story. Stick to it.
It is getting louder, so it's a little harder. But I think Russell is putting it lightly because he used his farm and did vertical. I mean, talk about, I guess one thing is vertical integration, and you were focused on almonds, vertical integration.
Well,
and I mean,
I was I was never focused that much. It just kind of happens, almonds. Okay, we got enough almonds now. How can we start selling our almonds? Hey, I can grow a nursery. Then maybe I can put them on irrigation systems. You just do everything. One business opens a door for multiple businesses. And if you're a business entrepreneur or businessman, you will seek opportunities that make you money. But my opinion is, don't work making nothing. Shut it down. If it's dead, take it behind the barn and shoot it. Have a good business.
And I will say another thing I always appreciate. I get to spend a lot of time with Russell, and he's taught me so many things. He's the one who told me. I remember sitting at 5 Restaurant when I was engaged to his daughter. He said, hey, you need to grow tomatoes. I still remember that. He goes, hey, the price of this, I didn't know shit, but I'm like, he's been pretty right on most of the things. And so I started growing tomatoes. And now I'm vertically integrated in tomatoes, which helped me in everything else. And I always, for a young guy listening to this, Russell has always said one thing to me, but the difference is he believes this. And so I will state this. If one man can do it, I can do it, and I can do it better. But you actually...
If one man can do it, another man can. I don't know if I can do it better.
No. Okay, sorry. One man can do it, another man can do it.
I'm no Hugh Hefner.
But, yeah. But you actually have to believe that, because a lot of people think, hey, I can do it, but they don't want to put in the effort. They don't want to get up and go out to the fields with John or Robert crunching numbers all night long to decide, hey, is this the right option for my company? Or Russell sitting there with his team calculating, should we give trees away or should I just take the cash now? What's the better investment?
Taking the cash.
Maybe today. But I think that's just an amazing, incredible story of somebody who took land, who built a large almond processor nursery, took the fruits of their labor and really grew it, to Robert, what he's done, and John. But now the last questions, I don't want to take it too long because it's getting louder and shit. Nobody cares right now, and I don't blame them. But a couple of things. John, you've touched on it. I'll let you in with it. But Russell, what do you see the future for young guys? And like I said, negative. I mean, right now is a negative time in the industry.
I would say if you're a young kid, get a good position in a boss's elderly with no kids working in the business and work your way to the top. That's one way. The other way, I think it's very important to position yourself in a company you can grow, learn your skill set, and keep all your opportunities open. You don't have to stay with one guy. I tell every employee I work with, if I can't pay you enough, you need to go do something better, you go do it. Because if you have an employee that will stay you, that never leaves, he's an employee worth keeping all the time. If they can get other jobs other places, then they're not very good employees. I think they'll leave. And if you can't pay them enough, then that's your issue. Everyone wants to get paid.
But they also want to be happy. And you've created a good work environment.
Yeah, I've convinced them.
Mike Finn might not say that, but Robert, what's your thoughts on the future for young guys and somebody listening to this?
You know, I still think there's great opportunities out there for young guys coming out of college. But, you know, the one thing I always tell, and I tell people that are new to our company is, you know, work hard and worry about the pay later, you know, because the rewards will come. And we always tell these guys, there's a lot of guys that are coming out of college, they always want big money up front, you know, and we always tell them just the opposite. You know, we will see your talent, we'll see what you're doing, and we'll reward you. And if we don't, you're at the wrong company and move on. But, you know, focus in on doing a great job and you know, work hard. And that's really kind of, you know, how I made it to where I did. I never went and asked for the money first. I worked hard and I got the rewards. And I would tell other people just do the same thing.
Yeah, you got to prove yourself.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
When you prove yourself, the owner or boss, they can't not do it, right?
That's right. And they'll want you. They'll want to keep you.
Exactly. John, what's your closing thoughts for young guys or anybody in their situation right now who thinks, hey, where's my shot? Where's my opportunity?
Well, I tell like my workers' kids and young kids that want to be in ag, I ask them, what do you like? What do you like to do? You like to work on engines? You like playing with electricity? Like whatever you enjoy doing, that's the direction you need to go in. If you want to be a plumber, as long as you stick to something and you're honest and you do what you say you're going to do, you're going to be successful. Whatever you like to do, that's the direction you go in. And if you don't like school, don't go to school. The guys that know how to work with their hands now, they're going to be the ones that are going to really excel and make the money, because most kids now are looking for the pot of gold. They think they're going to get out of college and make all this money, but that's not the case. I would hire a guy that has a skill set over a guy that, you know, is a speed reader.
Yeah, there's enough computer guys out there right now. I think plumbers are going to be as paid as high as attorneys in about 5 to 10 years. Hey guys, I want to thank, as everything's getting busy here, what a great OG podcast of a bunch of, not a bunch, but 3 individuals who've made it in their craft, but enjoy their craft. And I think John hit it right on the end is you got to really enjoy what you do. Otherwise, life's not going to be fun. Everything gets better when you enjoy what you do and passionate about it. I know my father-in-law is. I can tell Robert is, and John is too, in what they do. And it's not always easy. So, hey, I want to thank everybody for coming, and let's have fun.